So we're going to be talking about fear-based motivation. Why is this important? Because a lot of people are being motivated by fear and they're not aware of it because they just keep running. Okay? And when you keep running, what happens with your subconscious? It makes it a regular thing. Okay? And one of my former clients, a graduate of the program, so to speak, okay, was talking about it the other day, and she said, like you have no idea that fear is in control. Okay, so and I had an attorney last year. I always tell this story because people need to understand this, that this doesn't just happen. Fear doesn't just happen to the everyday person. Okay, when you see someone and they're motivated and they're accomplishing things and they're just breezing through their career, and you look at them and you go, wow, and you admire them. Okay, because on the outside, right, they don't look anxious. It doesn't appear to be anxiety on the outside, but on the inside, that's what's driving them. Okay, fear of failure is another thing. It's a very real thing for high performance professionals. Fear based motivation looks exactly, okay, like a high achieving, successful, like wow, he's got all his ducks in a row together kind of person, but on the inside there's fear. And some people run through their career. So this attorney that I had last year told me, she said, I've been running throughout my whole career because I just didn't want to be poor. And that was her motivation. That was her motivation. Okay. And the reason why this is bad is because like attracts like. Like energy attracts like energy. Good morning. Good morning, Sarah. Good morning, Sarah. There you go. That's my client, Sarah. Manuel, my friend in Belgium. Hey, Manuel. Good morning. Sunny boy. Good morning. So why is this not ideal for you? Because if you are being motivated by fear, or let's say it another way, if it's a fearful thought, and that fearful thought becomes the reason that you are being motivated, you will start to attract some very bad things. And the reason why is because, you can make gains that way, sure, but they're going to be temporary because they won't stick. If you want things to stick to you, if you want a career to stick to you, if you want money to stick to you, if you want friends to stick to you, how many times have you seen this? Okay? How many times have you seen this where you see someone who's very successful, everybody gathers around, right? And then they lose their job or they lose whatever it is that made them appear to be successful. What happens to the people? Gone. Okay? Like in a heartbeat, they're gone. Okay? And this girl told me something once a long, long time ago. I'll never forget it. When I was building my companies, she looked at me and she said, "You know, you're that little boy in the playground with a bag of candy." She said, "As long as you have that bag of candy, everyone will be here." She goes, "Once you lose that bag of candy, everybody will be gone." Okay? And I know this, right? But the fact that she said it back in the early 90s, right? And I took notes. I took notes and I'm going, okay. So part of the game, okay, I don't care if you're in business, I don't care if you're in politics, I don't care if you're in religion, whatever. But the name of the game is to hold on to that bag of candy. That represents your purpose. That represents whatever it is that is working in your life. And you preserve that. But we're talking about that imaginary ladder of success that you have to climb to get to where that is. Okay? We're talking about fear-based motivation. Because on the outside, people just appear to be motivated. High performance anxiety looks exactly like motivation. Exactly. And you can't tell. You can't tell that these people who look like the model versions of success or the model versions of whatever it is, right? For their respective careers. You don't understand that on the inside they're actually running. And they don't understand that on the inside they're actually running. Okay, so my former client, Janice, who's probably on the chat today, Janice said, you have no idea that fear is running the show until you get pulled out. Because you have no idea. Because your subconscious gets used to it, right? You teach your subconscious these things. Your subconscious does not know the difference between fantasy and reality. Your subconscious does not know if you're being driven by motivation or fear. Fear is not the idea. Okay? The idea is motivation. Okay? How you are being motivated has to be a conscious effort. Because if left to your subconscious, you will be on autopilot and it will feel normal. And these people feel normal. That my attorney client last year felt normal. Okay? The anxiety felt normal. The anxiousness felt normal. The fear felt normal. And after a while, you kind of go, oh, I guess this is how it is being a high-powered attorney. I guess this is how it is. And you accept it. And you keep working this way. Year after year, month after month, week after week, whatever, day after day. And you keep doing it. Why? Well, look at the foundation, right? Fear of being poor. Fear of failure. When you're afraid of failing for whatever reason, okay? Failure is the bottom line, right? In that sense. That's what you're afraid of. But that fear is what's motivating you. Okay? So fear-based motivation, right? In that mode, let's call it a mode because it is, people believe that they're making rational decisions. They believe that they're making intelligent, calculated decisions. But all of their decisions are made in fear. How do you solve this problem? Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, visualization. The vocalization exercise pulls you out. It pulls you out of fear. And that attorney who has had a remarkable career, I mean, boy, when I pulled her up on LinkedIn, I went, whoa, this is who I'm working with? Because I don't really, do research on the people that I work with, right? But every once in a while, and, for the professionals anyway, I want to understand what they do. And when I went and looked at her LinkedIn, I'm like, whoa, this lady is like cream of the crop. Like she is the tops in her field. She is at the very peak of the very upper echelon of her field. And I was very impressed. And she told me, I wish I met you when I was 25. And I thought that was such a huge compliment, And I said, don't worry, everything happens for a reason. Okay? But if you can get a handle on this when you're young, okay, so, let's say you're even 30 years old right now, 35 years old, even 40 years old. If you get it now, it will lengthen your lifespan. Okay? Because chronic worry, chronic anxiety is chronic fear. Okay, so it's a small little underlying current of fear. Do you always feel it? No. You don't always feel it. It comes and goes. But because it's in your subconscious, and because your reticular activating system in your brain is conditioned to look for it, it's your filter in your brainstem. It's your filter. It will look for more things that give you anxiety. And pretty soon, you have more triggers. The subconscious memorizes this. When your subconscious memorizes this, what happens? It learns in repetition, and then it keeps repeating. It goes, oh, is this what we're doing? Okay, we're doing anxiety? Okay, and it'll look for pathways towards things that will bring you more anxiety. Just this morning, one of our people that scheduled it with me, asked me in the messaging. She said, "Does this work with PTSD? Does it work with anxiety in that way?" I'm like, yeah, yeah, big time, big time. What it does is it separates you from the program. Okay, so there's a subconscious program. The vocalization process pulls you out of it. It pulls you out from the program so you become separate from the program. Then you can look back into the program and go, oh, I see. Because the feeling is entirely different. Okay, when you are anxious, you are anchored in a small little undercurrent of fear, and it starts to feel normal after a while. So let's say you're in construction, and let's say you work on those 40-story buildings. I see these guys all the time. It gives me anxiety to watch them, right? And I asked this guy, he was one of my clients. He used to climb up, into those 40 something story buildings and work on the top. He worked on the top floor, and I said, don't you guys, like, aren't you guys afraid of whatever? He goes, oh yeah. He goes, we're afraid. He goes, we walk a tightrope every day. He's like, yeah, we have anxiety. And then he sent me videos that they take when they're doing their construction. And these guys are yelling and hooting and hollering and whatever, getting all this stress out, getting all this anxiety out. Okay? But they do this to make the kind of money they make. They make huge money, like huge dollars. It makes you realize that you do not know when you're in it. Walk the walk, talk the talk. Yeah. Janice, that's Janice. So that's who I was talking about earlier, Janice. Thank you, Janice. Thank you for that. But these guys will do stuff like this and yell and cheer each other on like this just to get the anxiety out, because they have to work like that to make that money. But it's really good money, okay? Is that bad? No, it's not bad. But I'm just saying that these people have anxiety issues when they're not working. Okay, when they're done working. Because if you are operating at peak performance, I don't care if you're a lawyer, construction worker working on the 45th floor, whatever. Okay, whatever it is, you're going to suffer burnout at some point because your adrenal glands will not keep up. The adrenaline will not keep up. Pretty soon, your system starts to slow down, give out. But the vocalization exercise pulls you out. Okay, when I pulled him out of it, he was like, wow, this is different. It's a different kind of confidence. And I said, yeah, it is. It's internal confidence. Okay? Because sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. Right? You have to do to make do. You have to exert some sort of coping mechanism for your anxiety. A lot of women come to me, right? And the reason why the majority of my clients are women and always will be women is because men don't ask for directions. No offense, guys. Okay, I'm one of them. I don't ask for directions. I try to figure it out myself. Okay, because I'm a man, right? Okay, yeah. So good morning. Good morning, John. Thank you for joining us. Lady, good morning. So, it's important to understand that if you're filled with anxiety all the time, there's just that little undercurrent of fear, and then it easily gets triggered by more fear. But you have to know that this is something that your body is doing automatically. It's been conditioned to do it. And sometimes people look for band-aids, right? For anxiety. And this is where, drinking comes in. This is where drug use comes in. This is where dependency starts happening, because they just want to get rid of the anxiety. But this is a holistic process that we do. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about it. Let's talk more about the fears first, okay? So there's the fear of failure. Fear of judgment, that's another one. Fear of judgment, okay? And when you are in fear of judgment, what are you doing? You're pleasing people. Okay, what's that like? Well, you take the PlayStation controller, okay, that operates you, and you give it to somebody else, and you go, here, you do that. You operate me. You control me. Fear of judgment. Fear of judgment, and a lot of young people do this, okay? And they mistake this for confidence. But they are pleasing, okay, in the attempt to hold off judgment, to not to be judged. Okay. Judgment is the number one enemy, number one natural enemy of the female. We take judgment all the time. It's called dating. It's called dating. Men go through this. If they date, the longer they date, the more immune they become to fear of judgment. Okay. I'm joking, but yeah. Okay. But we have to deal with more rejection. Okay. So fear of judgment, right? So what you need to do in that instance is put on your blinders. Okay. I worked around an industry that had egos 10 feet high. Okay. I worked in the entertainment industry. I worked in the broadcast industry, radio, television. Okay. I had 4 simultaneous careers. Okay. And then I had my companies. And because I had my companies, I was very much, let's say, discriminated against. Okay. Because I was working alongside other people. And because I had my own thing, it was like, that kind of thing. You see what I'm saying? Okay. I didn't care. I didn't care because I was there to accomplish something. I was there to live my dreams. Okay. And you got to put up with a lot of stuff like that. Okay. You have to put up with a lot of judgment. You have to put up with a lot of discrimination. The world is full of it. Okay. But you have to be like a duck. Okay. Water off a duck. You just have to let it roll off. And it's not easy. It's not easy because every once in a while you get pulled into it. Every once in a while you start to believe it. Every once in a while you start to consider these things. Okay? So I had to go back to my office every day and sit back in my chair. I had this big chair. And I used to sit back in the chair, close my eyes, and meditate just to shake off the negative energy. Envy is a very powerful negative energy. Okay? And understand that all negative emotions, all negative energies come from fear. It's either your fear or someone else's fear. Okay, this is why Jesus was here to teach love. Today's Sunday. Happy Sunday. The Sabbath was yesterday, but everybody's conditioned to worship on Sunday, so here we are. So when you start becoming inundated with these things, okay, which happens when you start doing successful things, okay, so the more haters you get, right, the more happy you should become. In the beginning, it's like, hey, wait a minute, I'm doing good stuff. Why is people hating? Okay, and then you start to get it, and you go, oh, okay. And it took someone to come along and tell me, dude, you have haters, congratulations. I didn't see it that way at first, right? This is years ago. This is like 30, almost 40 years ago. And I'm like, oh, really? And I started to think about it, and I started to do research on it. I'm like, yeah, I'm lucky I have haters. And then I started using the haters to my benefit, right? So if I wanted something broadcast around, it actually worked better than the radio or television that I was doing work on. All I had to do was say something. It went all the way around and then came back to me. And I was like, this is how it works. So So if you have haters, it's because you're doing something right. Okay? If people are envious of you, okay, don't let it give you anxiety. Okay? You are actually doing something right because people don't resent you for being a loser. People don't envy you because you don't have anything. Okay? People are not jealous of you if there's nothing to be jealous of. Okay? So President Franklin Delano Roosevelt said the only thing you have to fear is fear itself. Think about that. Okay? You think thoughts, and your imagination creates the rest. Your imagination creates the emotional response. First, you think the thought, then you feel the emotion. Then you think another thought, then you feel the emotion. If it's a good thought, you feel good emotion. You feel happy, excited, whatever it is. Okay? If it's a negative thought, you're going to feel fear. What happens when it's a fearful thought? Your amygdala starts to kick in to save you. Okay? That's what it is. Okay, yesterday we were talking about it, right? The amygdala. Okay, that's your fear center. That's your alarm system. After 6 seconds of a negative thought, it will start to give you negative what ifs. What if this? What if that? What if this? What if that? What if this? What if that? And none of them will be positive at all. Because they're all going to be in alignment with the thought. Then what happens? Then the reticular activating system in your brainstem, it will start to filter in what you're focused on and filter out what you're not focused on. And all of a sudden, you can't seem to recover. Why? Because now you have a plethora of negative thoughts, right? And the spin-offs work like this. Negative thought, okay? Now you have maybe 4 amygdala thoughts that go, what if, what if, what if? The negative, right? And you grab one of those, and now after 6 seconds of one of those, your amygdala goes, okay, here's another assortment of negative what ifs, and you grab one of those, and you think of one of those after 6 seconds. You see. And that's what we call a negative spiral. Because it's not lifting you up, it's bringing you down. It's bringing you down in mood. Okay? So if you're an entrepreneur, okay, if you're at your workplace and your coworkers are somehow jealous of something that you're doing, figure out what that is. And then give yourself credit for it. Okay? Now, fear of financial loss. I have this one once in a while, especially the last month, because the market has been going like this, like this, like this, like this, right? So I stopped checking. I stopped checking on the market, okay? Because it's not fun, okay? But when you start fearing loss, financial loss, guess what happens? You start pushing money away, okay? What happens when you start focusing on gain? You start getting more. Is it magic? No, it's your subconscious. Okay? People in the Great Depression made a lot of money. Okay? A lot of people. And a lot of people sunk deeper into poverty. Why is that? It was mindset. It was the way they looked at it. It was the way they approached it. There was this TV series a long, long time ago when I was a kid. It was called The Waltons. It was about depression, a depression era family in the country that always had abundance because they all worked together. They all loved together. They're a very loving family. You know, it was a very positive type show, right? And there were always challenges and whatever. But at the end of each show, it was like everything ended well because they had each other. So this is why the right hemisphere of the brain is important. This is why Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father. Okay? For you spiritual people, okay? This is the reason in the Holy Bible that Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father and not the left. This is why you have the expression right hand man. Right hand man. Because the ego lives in the left hemisphere of the brain. The ego always thinks it knows best. Oh, yeah, you remember that? Yeah, the Waltons. Yep, great show. That's my client, Sarah, in the UK. So, the ego will take you down a very bumpy road. A very, very bumpy road. And this is why the journey of Moses in the Bible is a story of surrender. Okay? To migrate from the left hemisphere of the brain to the promised land on the right, where Jesus lives, where God exists in the right hemisphere of your brain. It's your intuitive thought, your intuition. It's your creativity. It's your imagination. Okay? It's your bonding. All of these things are right hemisphere actions. So the promised land is where the abundance is. The right hemisphere of your brain. The activities that happen in the right hemisphere. Okay? Let's say, for example, there's something that you don't have that you want. You can create it from the right hemisphere of your brain. That's where creativity comes from. But first you have to surrender the ego. You don't eliminate the ego. You push it to the back filing cabinet. You don't allow it to be a priority. You don't allow the ego to rule over you. You rule over it. Okay? It's the same thing with money. You tell money what to do. You don't allow money to tell you what to do. Money doesn't tell me what to do. But when you start to surrender the ego, what happens? Oh, life gets better. Opportunities come. Why is that? Because you have 3 states of awareness: conscious, subconscious, superconscious. Superconscious represents God, or however you believe in that. If you believe in higher self, if you believe in infinite intelligence, if you believe in God, Jesus Christ, Allah, whatever, however you believe, I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm not here to influence you. I'm here to inform you. I'm here to give you ideas that will help you. But in your subconscious, you have a set of core beliefs. And the superconscious amplifies those things. Okay, God can only work with what's in your subconscious. Why? Because the formula is ask, believe, receive. The key word is ask. Okay? But the more important keyword is believe. You can ask for anything. If you don't believe that you're going to get it, it won't happen. And this is why. A belief is a thought you keep thinking. So in some books that you read, it says you have to pray, right, without ceasing. All that is telling you to do is focus on what it is you want. And most people focus on what they don't want. Why? Because you see it in movies. Because you see it on television. Because you grew up with it. You grew up watching it. Right? And you always see people say, well, the last thing I want. Right? Okay, so there are entities, without being conspiratorial, there are entities that would prefer if you thought the other way. Okay? But these things will give you anxiety because of that negative succession of thoughts, that negative spiral. Okay? And it will keep happening over and over until you change the subconscious. Once you change the subconscious, it's very easy to maintain. Once you get pulled out by the vocalization exercise, it's very easy to maintain. Because if you don't know you're in it, like Janice was saying, if you don't know you're in it, it's very difficult to get out. And then medicine becomes a band-aid. You know, okay, take your medicine, feel better. Okay, medicine wears off. Oh, but now I'm back where I started. Okay, take some more medicine. What's the topic? Anxiety. We're talking about anxiety and how your voice heals anxiety and how I cure anxiety in human beings. Does it work with disease too? Not in my experience. In my experience, this has only been with emotional issues. Okay, I've never had an instance where one of my clients got better physically with a physical disease. That's never happened. Although, when you examine the human brain and when you understand how the human brain works and the processes, you can probably see how that could affect how mental health affects physical health. I mean, there is a correlation, but I'm saying that I've never had anyone come to me and say, well, my physical thing got better because or my cancer went into remission, or nothing like that. Not in my experience. Okay, but I see these things online, right? With frequency music. Okay, 432 hertz, 528 hertz. Okay, and this is conducive to wellness, to human wellness. And people are commenting that their cancer went away. And that's the placebo effect. So the placebo effect is real. There are studies where people are given sugar pills and their afflictions go away. Their physical illness goes away. Now, in this book, I'll show you a book where you could read up on it. Okay, I'll give you a reference here. The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. He is a pioneer in the field. Okay, and he makes a lot of references. He makes a lot of Christian references, biblical references. Okay, I'm a Christian, and he's a Christian author, but you don't have to be a Christian to follow the wisdom. Okay, it's very useful wisdom, even if you're not a Christian. Okay, but the information in this book on how to heal from physical ailments with your subconscious, I've never done it. I don't really get sick. Okay, I try to keep myself healthy. I try to eat the right things. And in my experience, it's what you eat that makes you sick the fastest. Okay, so whenever somebody tells me, oh, and I'm at that age now. I'm at that age where, you know, when people talk to me, right, it's like, oh, well, you know, I came down with this and I, you know, went to the doctor, and they're telling me their problems, okay? And as a life coach, I listen to problems all day long, okay? But when I listen to too many problems for too long, inside I just start saying thank you, thank you, thank you, quietly to myself, okay? And what that does is it keeps it out of my subconscious. Because here's what happens. Somebody tells you what's happening to them, right? And let's say you're maybe the same age or a little younger or whatever, but you're approaching that age and you start thinking to yourself, wow, I wonder if that's going to happen to me. I wonder if that's, you know, going to go wrong with me. I wonder, whatever, right? It's the same thing as listening to those TV commercials. You know, are you feeling lethargic? Are you tired after work? Right? And pretty soon you start, I mean, they're logical questions. Okay? Like, people get tired after work. Okay? I mean, I get tired after work. Okay? And pretty soon you go, yeah, I think I might have that. And then you check with your doctor, and your doctor goes, well, maybe you do have that. And the doctor gives you medicine. Whatever. But you start thinking, okay, that this could happen to me. And you start thinking it over and over. What happens to the subconscious? A belief is a thought you keep thinking. Pretty soon your subconscious believes that this is a possibility. This could be happening. Or this may happen. Then what have you done? You've established that program in your subconscious. Okay. Good morning, Miss Sunshine. I see you. Thank you so much for liking. Thank you. Share the live, you guys. Okay, so these fears, right? Some of them are imaginary. Most of them are imaginary. Wait till something bad happens and then do something about it. Okay? So let's talk about fear of responsibility. Okay, some people avoid their highest potential because they're afraid of becoming responsible. I know. Sounds like nonsense, right? But this causes anxiety. Okay. You ever talk to somebody who's maybe working at a company, and then you go, hey, why don't you be manager? Oh, I don't want to be a manager. That's too much responsibility. Okay. Oh, if I'm manager, then that means I got to make more money, pay more taxes, whatever. They're looking at the negative side of things. Okay. They're looking at the glass half empty. Okay, but there is a glass half full side. Everything, okay, contains both the glass half full and the glass half empty. And the glass half empty always brings anxiety. Always. And sometimes we hold it against ourselves, right? Because we're our worst critic. So the fear of responsibility, okay, could end up us blaming us for not taking the opportunity because we don't want to be responsible. And sometimes in here, right, it's like, well, yeah, I wish I was making more money, but I don't want the responsibility. So now responsibility becomes the demon. Okay? Fear of change, that's another one. Okay? Fear of change. It causes anxiety. Humans are neurologically wired to prefer familiarity. Okay? We are hardwired to be comfortable. Okay? And once we repeat the same program in our subconscious over and over and over and over and over and over, we develop a routine. Okay? Which is why I switch up my routines. Okay? Sometimes I stay in a routine for a while and then I switch it up deliberately on purpose. Because you don't want to be stuck with the same routine for too long. Why? Because actions create results. Okay? And after you get this, let's say you're on a winning streak. You make a lot of money. You're doing a lot of money, bringing in a lot of clients, whatever, everything's going good. And then you change your routine and you watch your clients slow down. You watch your business slow down. And maybe it's not your fault. Maybe you got sick and you had to break your routine. Now you have to reestablish your routine. But sometimes when you get sick and you stay home and, hey, it feels good not doing anything today. Hey, it feels good cruising today, right? Okay? This is how easy habits are formed in humans. Okay, the next day, no, that's okay. I think I'll do one more day to get well. Okay. Oh, wow, I was cruising all day today. Hey, this felt good. Okay? By the third day, your subconscious has learned this feels good. Okay? And then you start making what? Allowances for feeling good, for continuing this new habit. It's a new routine already. Okay, it only takes me 3 days to establish a new routine and get it going. It only takes me 3 days. Okay, but my subconscious is conditioned. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so subconscious conditioning looks like this. This is the affirmation part. Okay, this is the affirmation part. Okay, these are affirmations, not journaling. These are affirmations. Why does the human mind, allocate very little importance to a routine, but it seems very important? So it's quite the opposite. Your mind allocates everything to routine. Okay, so you are manifesting. So manifestation is subconscious. Routine is subconscious. 95% of your life is subconscious. Okay, your conscious mind only works on 5% of your life. So the decisions, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. Okay, that's a conscious decision. Once you do some repetition, okay, like when I'm talking about the routine, you can establish a routine in 3 days. Okay. Actually, in 2 weeks, it's like firmly established. In 66 days, it becomes a habit, a firm program in your subconscious. That's minimum 66 days. Okay. So you have habits, you're acquiring habits every day, whether you believe it or not. Okay. But it depends on what you're doing. And you have power over controlling this, of course. Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, visualization. The affirmations is to give a new directive to your subconscious. When I do this, things happen like within days. Okay? When I put here, I'll show you. So yesterday was a record money day. Okay? And I've just been putting this on my lock screen for maybe, I don't know, about a week. About a week. And ever since I did that, money starts going like that, going like that, going like that. Now, am I going to keep that on forever and just keep stacking up money? No. Why should I? I only do it when I want money. Okay? So let's say my clients, cycle out, right? Clients get finished with the program, it's 12 weeks, then a new bunch of clients come in. Okay? So sometimes, especially with the war right now, okay, things aren't as flow as they used to be because there's a lot of fear out there. Okay, which is one reason why I'm here to show you how to deal with fear. But there's a lot of fear in our society right now, in the world right now. A lot of anxiety in the world right now. And it doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, doesn't matter whether you have a job or not, it doesn't matter. Rich people are much afraid right now. Rich people have a lot of anxiety right now. Okay, there's a lot to be lost at high levels of society right now. This is not a age thing. This is not a rich or poor thing. This is a human being thing. This is an emotional thing. Okay, fear is a natural thing that we are hardwired to do to save us from extinction. It's for evolutionary purposes. Okay, it's so that we can survive. But when you're living in survival mode, when you're living in fear all the time, okay, the only thing you need to do is change your mind. That's it. Change your mind. Okay, how do you do that? I am so happy and grateful now that I'm confident. Thank you. There, write it in the morning when your brain is in theta state, when you're fully relaxed, before you get out of bed, before coffee, before eating, before anything. And then before you turn off the lights to go to bed at night, read it out loud. Because you can speak things into existence. Okay, in the Bible in Genesis, it gives you that clue. God spoke the world into existence. Where is God? God is in here. God is in you. The word namaste means the divinity in me salutes the divinity or acknowledges the divinity in you. But when you're full of anxiety, do you feel like acknowledging the divinity in you? That's the last thing you're thinking of. Confidence is the last thing you're experiencing. When you're anxious, when you're full of anxiety, the last thing you're thinking of is saluting anything and anybody else. Why? Because you're consumed in here. Because you're anxious in here. Because you're fearful in here. Because you feel anxiety in here. And fear of change brings anxiety. Why? Because when things change, you have to get used to it. When things change, you're like, hey, whoa, what is this? What is this? Okay? People are losing their jobs right now, not because people don't want them. It's because the world is changing. It's because technology is changing. So certain things are no longer needed or required in numbers that they used to be. And some people aren't keeping up. And some people are experiencing change in a drastic way. And that brings anxiety. Okay, the fear of coming change brings anxiety. Do you need to fear it? No. You need to embrace it. not the fear, the change. Okay? Just know that you'll be able to do other things. Just know that you are a human being and you can learn new skills. Okay? But you need to be open. Okay? If you're stubborn, then pretty soon you're going to convince yourself that you can't do this. You can't do that. You're not good at this. You're not good at that. And pretty soon you're not good. That is not the thing to think. Those are not legitimate thoughts. Those are beliefs that you have created in your subconscious. You have convinced yourself that this is the way it is. I can't help this. I'm a victim. Okay? And then you start thinking that life is happening like this to you. And you have to dodge bullets. You have to dodge circumstances. No. Life is happening like this for you. Okay? Life is happening like this. Okay? It carries throughout the day. Janice says it carries throughout the day. I am so happy and grateful that I am. Yes, you are. Yes. Going throughout the. I'm sorry. Going to. Can you clarify that for me? Digital alky. Going throughout the what? Crucible? No, it's very easy. It's repetition. It's repetition. Very easy to do. Okay? But you have to write it down. You can't be lazy. Lazy is a thing, right? You know, effort is a thing. Now there's two kinds of effort, okay? You can think it and you can write it. Okay? And you can perform it. Physical action. Okay, I write about stuff and it happens. I think about things and it happens. But even more so than that, I see the synchronicities when they happen. Synchronicities. You know when you talk about something and then you see it? I was on the phone once. I was talking with a psychic, right? It's my friend. My friend is a psychic in the mainland. And I was walking through a mall and she was saying stuff, right? And I saw it happen right in front of me. And I said, you wouldn't believe what I'm watching right now. And she goes, what? And I told her about it. And I said, it's what you're telling me right now. I'm seeing it going down right in front of me. She was describing something and it happened right in front of me. That's synchronicity. The average person who is conditioned into societal hypnosis cannot see it. It could be right in front of them. They will not make the correlation. Why? Because they're not awake. They're sleepwalking. They're subconscious. Okay? 95% of their life, repetition. Okay? Their subconscious has a hold of them. Yes, change is not always easy. No, change is very easy. Change is very easy. What I'm talking about is people have the fear of change, but they're unaware that it's easy. It's everywhere. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about, but yeah. Oh, synchronicities. Yeah. Synchronicities are everywhere, but you can't see it if you're preoccupied with fear, with anxiety, stress, all the negative emotions, guilt, shame. It's all rooted in fear. All of the negative emotions are rooted in fear. And we pull people out through their voice. Okay, why? Because it's energy, frequency, vibration, and with strength, it's velocity. So look up somatic healing. Okay, you need to be aware of it because it's a holistic thing that happens naturally. The way it's described and the way we do it is just a little different. So, you know, it talks about humming, talks about chanting, talks about, you know, those things, singing, that kind of thing. But let's compare it, if you want to compare it to my program. So what it describes in, let's say, by definition, would be like doing it at 5 miles an hour. Okay. I have my clients do it at 65 miles an hour. And sometimes they keep building. I had this girl on Thursday, this past Thursday, right? Valuable content. Thank you, Lolly's. Lolly's Beauty. Thank you. Thank you very much. Join us every morning. We're here every morning, same time. So, so I worked with her on Thursday, and I normally give her a half hour because she can't afford the hour. Okay, so I try to make this available for everyone. So we developed a half hour specifically for that purpose. Okay, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. You love the high speeds too? Yeah. Well, this is velocity through your voice. So I'm talking about like if you go 5 miles an hour, which might be and then 60 miles an hour, which I don't want to make a big noise, but yeah, it'd be like bah, like that. Okay. I'm just giving you something to reference it by. It's strength training. And oh, what does the strength training do? Maybe I should explain because digital Elki is new today. So strength training, okay. So when you apply pressure, okay, to straight tones through your voice, it activates your neurotransmitters, which secrete the hormones oxytocin and endorphins. Okay, it calms, soothes, relieves, and pretty soon it provides more clarity because all the negative emotions disappear. And then what happens? That's what we call confidence. Okay. So I have two companies that I do this with. One is for my singers, and this one, Here For You Life Coaching, is for the everyday person because we have business people. I work with business professionals, what I call high performance individuals, because they have a lot of responsibility. Um, you are new here. Viva Faith. Welcome. Yeah. Welcome. Mark Anderson. What? I don't know. What, Mark? Tell me what. I'll answer. Ask me a question. So 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 it secretes oxytocin and endorphins. Okay, your neurotransmitters do this, and then what happens is you calm on the inside. What happens to your anxiety? It goes away. Okay, now this is a 12-week program. Okay, so the people that I've made the half hour available to, it takes a little bit longer because it's a half hour. Okay, but the regular program is 1 hour. It's 1 hour for 12 weeks, so 12 1 hour sessions, 1 hour a week. It creates different people because people don't understand the kind of hypnosis that they're under in society. Okay? Because you become programmed in society, programmed by TV news, by social media feeds, by movies, by whatever you're watching. And this is not a bad thing. This is, it's not a bad thing to those people that sit at the intersection and they're like this, waiting for the light to change. They're like this. They're like machines, and they're just sitting there staring at the light, waiting for the light, and then the light turns green, and then they go. Okay, they've been conditioned. They're not paying attention to their surroundings. They're waiting for the light. Okay, they're doing what they've been told to do, what they've been programmed to do. Okay, and that's when it's like really thick at that point. It's a binaries activation within the brain with a frequency. Yeah, exactly. It is, but it's hormonal. Subconscious workout. Yeah, mind, body, spirit. There you go. So Janice was my client, and Janice has been set free from the prison that is here. The prison is here. Okay. So these things that I'm mentioning that create anxiety, okay, uh, what does fear-based motivation do to manifestation? So you manifest whether you think so or not, okay? Whether you believe it or not, it's not something you have to believe in. You manifest no matter what because actions end up in results. It's as simple as that, okay? But fear-based motivation, what does that do? Well, it creates internal conflict. Okay, this is why doubt and fear are not conducive to manifestation. This is why anxiety, or people that have anxiety, people that suffer from anxiety, or let's say it another way, people with a small little underlying current of fear, which is what anxiety is. Okay, so these people make gains, suffer losses, make gains, suffer losses. That attorney I was telling you about last year, right? That said she wished she would have met me when she was 25. Okay, she had chest pain, physical chest pain. Okay, it wasn't a disease, it was just stress. Okay, just stress, chest pain. And I asked her, I said, how long have you had this chest pain? She was, I've always had this chest pain. And then she went on to tell me that she's been motivated by fear because she didn't want to be poor. And that's what drove her career. Okay? But it was like gain, loss, gain, loss, gain, loss, gain, loss. Okay? Now, if you look at people who go to the right retreats, do the right things for their emotional health, for their mental health, right? They go gain, 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 setback. Gain, 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 setback. Gain, gain. That's a normal pattern. Okay. Are you nor I own 4 different companies, Evelyn. I'm pretty busy, but thank you. we're not we're not discussing that. Jay will take care of you. Jay, Evelyn, right there. So fear-based motivation, right, creates counter manifestation. In other words, you're trying to achieve this, okay, but your anxiety pulls you down. You make a few gains, but then anxiety kicks in and pulls you down. Why? Because doubt and fear prevent you from anything. Okay, why? Because ask, believe, receive, okay, is more about the belief in it than anything else. Once you get rid of the anxiety, once you get rid of the fear, you start attracting who you are. Okay? Everything that is supposed to be for you will come based upon your interest, based upon your genetics, based upon your life path, based upon what you seek to accomplish in the world. All of it. The doors literally opened up for me after my research. And the question was, after my first set of successes, like, okay, how do we get to the next level? That was the question. The answer took 2 years of study. And then I decided to open Here For You Life Coaching in 2010. And if you go on our Google site, Here For You Life Coaching Honolulu, we only have 5-star reviews. So we have we have the $97 special. Monday is the last day, so actually tomorrow is the last day. $97. So we do 1 hour of the vocal exercises with you, okay? And we will pull you out of your anxiety, and you'll see how it works, okay? And then it takes 12 weeks after that. If you're doing the half hour, maybe a little more than that, maybe close to 20 weeks, okay? But 12 weeks for the 1 hour. But just to see what it's like. So a lot of people, are asking me, they're messaging me like, okay, what is this really like? And whatever. And I said, well, you can try it. I have a $97 special for 1 hour. Otherwise, we have a 15-minute free consultation where you can try it, but you're not going to be able to try it for an hour. It doesn't last that long. So you'll be able to, get the broad scope of it anyway. Okay. But fear, or let's say anxiety, okay, because it's that small little undercurrent, okay? Fear keeps you from a lot of stuff. People that suffer from anxiety sometimes don't want to do stuff. Okay, sometimes it leads to depression. Okay, depression is like you just don't want to get out of the covers in the morning. You just don't want to do anything. And we make no medical claims, okay? So if you're feeling this way, you should really see a medical professional to get diagnosed. Okay? And then come and see me. Okay, because many psychologists, I have actually 2 right now that I know of, but several psychologists over the years kept sending people to me. 2 of them regularly do, and I found out in the weirdest way. I wasn't aware, and so a friend of mine is a psychologist, right? And they can't say legally, they're not allowed to say. And one day I was talking with him. I said, hey, you should send people to me. I can help them. And he goes, oh, dude, I've been sending people to you for years. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But we've been doing this for 37 years, okay? Tons of success stories. You can look on Facebook. You can look on Instagram. You can look at our Google site. That's where the reviews are, okay? But yeah, we can take care of your anxiety. So if you, thank you, user. Thank you for being here. So if you need help with that, okay, and just know that most of your fear is imagined, okay? It's the amygdala setting off all of it, okay? It's setting off all the alarms, okay? And if you stay with that thought, the best thing to do is you get a negative thought, say stop, and focus on something else. Say stop and look at a picture of your children. Say stop and look at a picture of your dog. Say stop and see your dog in your mind or whatever it is. Okay? But focus on the things you love and the people you love. Okay? We'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Thank you for being here. I'm Junior Kekuewa Jr. from Here For You Life Coaching. It's hereforyoulifecoaching.com. If I could be of service, I will help you. Okay? Or you can write to me and I'll just give you